Introduction to the Church of Latter-day Saints. When discussions of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints take place, most immediately think of the church body headquartered in Salt Lake City, Utah. However, there are a number of Latter-day Saint bodies in the United States, the Salt Lake City body simply being the largest in terms of members. Although commonly referred to as Mormons, this term is really only a nickname associated with the Book of Mormon, written by a man named Mormon, which was first published in 1830 and translated by Joseph Smith, the founder of the church. The various bodies of Latter-day Saints do not belong to the Protestant churches, but claim their authority was bestowed directly from God. Technically speaking, there are no full-time professional clergy in the Latter-day Saints churches. Once a boy reaches the age of 12, he is ordained in the office of the priesthood. Bishops, who hold full-time employment in areas outside of the church, are called from the priesthood to serve for an unspecified time and without compensation for their service to the church. The clothing a decedent will wear will depend on whether or not he or she has been through the temple. For those members who have not been through the temple, the choice of clothing belongs to the family. For a man who has been through the temple, the clothing consists of white garments, socks, shirt, trousers, tie, and moccasins. A robe is worn over the right shoulder, extending diagonally across the chest in a straight line to the ankle, front, and back. A green apron and white sash are placed over the waist. The sash is tied in a bow on the left side. A white cap is placed on the decedent's head before the casket is closed. The cap has a bow on the left side and a string on the right side, which is tied to the rope. For a woman who has been through the temple, the clothing is similar. White undergarments, hose, slip, dress, and moccasins are placed on the deceased. In most instances, members of the Latter-day Saints come to the funeral home to dress the deceased in their temple clothing. Men commonly dress men, and women dress the women. However, there are times when the family allows the funeral home staff to dress the deceased in their temple clothing. The bishop, or speaker, of the ward should be contacted to determine the order of worship for the service. There may be some differences as to the order of worship based on the individual preferences of the officiant. Depending on the location of the funeral, which may be in the funeral home or tabernacle, determination should be made as to the location of the family and casket bearer seating, the placement of the casket, and whether or not flowers will be present for the private viewing in the Relief Society room or inside of the sanctuary for the actual funeral service. Remembering that we are guests at the facility, but as the funeral home, we are also the welcoming party for the arriving guests. Some are members and others might be friends who are not members of the Church of Latter-day Saints. You as a services director should know beforehand the location of restrooms, gathering rooms for the casket bearers to prepare if there's a location available for them, and the location of the Relief Society room, where viewing and a prayer of the family is said prior to the start of the service. You want to be sure everyone attending receives a memorial folder and an opportunity to sign the memorial book. Therefore, it would be a good idea to position your assistant and the memorial items in a location where persons usually enter the church. The visitation for the public is held in the mortuary the night before. There will also be a private visitation inside the tabernacle or ward immediately prior to the funeral service. The private visitation will usually take place in the Relief Society room 1 hour before the funeral service. When setting the decedent up for viewing inside of this room, all flowers do not have to be present. In order to keep the room from getting crowded, it is good to only bring the casket piece and maybe one or two floral or plant arrangements. These should be from the family. Usually, it will be arranged for you to arrive at the ward or tabernacle 1 hour before the service for a visitation. Prior to preparing to move into the chapel, the bishop will have a private moment with the family. There is usually a prayer, and then the family gets ready for the service, and the service directors move the casket in preparation for the processional. After the bishop is finished with the family in the Relief Society room, the family will either be escorted to their seating location if there is no procession, or prepare to follow the casket into the tabernacle if there will be a processional. The processional into the tabernacle is as outlined above. After the casket is placed, the family and casket bearers are seated. The casket is usually never opened inside of the chapel. This is the usual order of service. The family prayer is said with the family in the Relief Society room prior to the casket being brought into the chapel. There may be additional songs as well as additional persons coming forward to share remarks about the deceased. The service will conclude with the benediction. After the benediction, the service is over, and the services directors will come forward to begin movement towards the funeral coach. Graveside services, the dedication of the grave. Following the funeral, a simple graveside dedication service is held, attended only by family and immediate friends. One who holds the Melchizedek priesthood, given authority, responsibility, and power by the Church of LDS to act in the name of Jesus Christ, usually a member or close friend of the family, dedicates the grave, asking God to protect it as a hallowed resting place until the resurrection. Local law in some countries may dictate cremation rather than burial, but in the absence of such a law, burial is preferred because of its doctrinal symbolism. Ultimately, however, the decision is left to the family of the deceased. Circumstances also may dictate a memorial service or a graveside service only. Bishops are counseled to show regard for family wishes in keeping with the spiritual and reverent nature of the occasion. This service, the committal service, is also concluded with a prayer, better known as the benediction.